countdown to the last comic shop in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ho, ho, ho! And welcome back to the last comic shop!
Oh, you're the Jolly Green Giant, I thought.
I don't have peas and green beans in a can. I got maybe presents in a bag.
I'm running this off the rails. I'm out of work.
I don't like where this is going. Let's open the shop, Jay. It's been a minute.
Too much eggnog.
That is true, especially your homemade stuff. Man, you could start cars with that. Whew.
I have started a car with it.
All right. We're the Last Comic Shop podcast, where each week we open the shop for fat, jolly men and
newbies.
And newbies
who want to learn about comic books.
Yes, exactly.
And Christmas.
It is the holiday season, and we are definitely in a festive mood here at the shop. I'm the host of the most, Andy Larson. I'm joined by my loyal elves, Chad Smith and J.A. Scott. And for all of our fans to kick off this holiday season, we're going to do it in style by giving you 4 weeks worth of DC books. Yes, it is our DCember.
Yay!
Hey, do you want those numbers at the end of this month when you do your year-end recap show? Like, do you want them to actually add up that, like, DC didn't get shafted for, like, the third straight year in a row?
That's true. Oh, I better start on those numbers. That data's not going to calculate itself.
I thought you were going to use generative AI to do it this year.
Oh, my goodness. Chad GBT.
Yes.
Everybody can have a fat, jolly man making asinine comments. Just load up your Chad GBT.
It's not a large language model. It's just a large model.
All right. So to kick off DCember this week, we're going to be doing a book that, again, a couple months ago, like, got some huge numbers out there on Amazon after one James Gunn tweeted it and said, yeah, this is an awesome book and you should check it out. That is Wonder Woman Historia, The Amazons, which won a variety of Eisners, and we will get to that book in just a moment. But maybe you're sitting around roasting some chestnuts, drinking some of that eggnog that is slightly flammable. Whatever you're doing here to get ready for the holiday season, we're going to help with that by providing you some holiday quiz questions. Yes, it is the final time this year that one J.A. Scott can defeat one Chad Smith.
You mean Chad GBT.
One final time that I can lose to Chad in the year of Chad.
That's right.
That's true. He is a quiz machine. As those folks that have been listening to the Last Comic Shop know for quite some time, Chad has won almost every single quiz type game we've had on the Last Comic Shop over the last 3 years. And J.A. has put up a good fight. Like, I think last one we did was at Halloween, and Chad only got 5 questions right, and J.A. only got 4.
Way to sell it. We are excellent at this.
We are going to get into these holiday questions, so hopefully, you'll play along at home, and, these will be great questions that maybe you can ask your friends and family while you're exchanging terrible gifts in a couple weeks. J.A., given that you've lost every single round of these quizzes, what would you like to do? Would you like to go first or second, sir?
I'm going to go first.
So again, 10 questions for both of you. Without further ado, question number 1. The real St. Nicholas was born in what modern-day country? Turkey, Germany, Iraq, or Israel?
I'm going to go Germany.
That is incorrect. The correct answer is Turkey.
Seems Turkish to me.
It is believed the real St. Nicholas was born
wait a minute. It's believed. So that's...
Any case, around 280 A.D. in Patara near Merthyr in the modern-day Turkey. According to the legend, his extraordinary kindness led him to give away all his inherited wealth as he traveled the countryside, helping the sick and poverty-stricken.
How could he not be Turkish? He's a delight.
Modern day Turkey.
Is Turkey anywhere near Germany?
It is.
No,
It
no.
borders Germany.
All right. Question number 2. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was created as a promotion for what department store? Nordstrom's, JCPenney's, Macy's, or Montgomery Ward?
I'm going to go Macy's.
That is incorrect. The correct answer was
Montgomery Ward.
right, Chad. How did you know that?
We used to have one in the local area here. So a little claim to fame there.
Montgomery Ward hired writer Robert L. May in 1939 to write a Christmas story that could be given away to holiday shoppers. May's brother-in-law, songwriter Johnny Marks, liked the story and decided to write a song to go with it. The resulting Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer eventually became a classic when it was recorded in 1949 by Gene Autry.
So I just looked it up. Turkey does not border Germany.
But I bet Rudolph was German.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Okay.
Question number 3. What song does Lucy ask Schroeder to play on his piano in A Charlie Brown Christmas? Would that be Silent Night, Jingle Bells, Frosty the Snowman, or Joy to the World?
I'm going to go Joy to the World, but I don't know, because I'm not a Charlie Brown man. And I'm getting this run wrong, too. I can see Chad's shaking his head.
It's Jingle Bells and stuff.
That's right. And Ho, 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 and Pretty Little Girls. Jingle Bells is the correct answer. So, yeah, you are 0 for 3. Going into question number 4. In the 12 days of Christmas, how many drummers are drumming?
Oh, wait.
This isn't a trick question. You just have to figure out the day. I'll give you that as a hint. You just have to figure out what day it was.
Okay. Well, first was Partridge in a Pear Tree, 2 Lords Leaping, 3 something, 5 Golden Rings, 6
4
drummers drumming.
That is incorrect. It is 12 drummers drumming.
Oh.
Lords a leaping and
Right.
Yeah.
eggs a laying and
Yes, I think 6 is 6 geese a laying.
Laying.
That's right. Here.
those damn lazy geese gotcha.
Yeah.
Question number 5. Eggnog was first consumed in what U.S. city? Would that be Provincetown, Massachusetts, Boston, Massachusetts, Jamestown, Virginia, or New York, New York?
I got to go the Big Apple, New York, New York.
That is incorrect.
It's Provincetown.
It is
I'm
not
gonna
in
guess
Provincetown.
Jamestown, that's why they're not there anymore. Bad
It
eggs.
is Jamestown, Virginia. According to historical accounts made by John Smith, the first eggnog was made in the United States, was consumed in 1607 at the Jamestown settlement. Question number 6. Which English monarch established the Christmas tree tradition in Great Britain? Would that be Henry VIII, George II, Elizabeth I, or Queen Victoria?
Let's go Henry VIII to distract the country from all of his wives.
It is incorrect.
It's George.
You think it's George II? That is incorrect. The correct answer is Queen Victoria. England did not get on the Christmas tree bandwagon until 1848, when Queen Victoria set up the tree at the Windsor Castle. I think she actually did that for Prince Albert, because Prince Albert was from Prussia. It was more of like a Prussian.
He was in a can. People wanted to let him out.
Prince Albert's in the can.
Oh,
We got to get him out of there. Get a tree.
You're 0 for 6 during this thing. So let's see if you can just sweep it with the last 4 questions.
Whew.
And make this an actual competition. Question number 7. What is the name of Ebenezer Scrooge's deceased business partner? Come on.
Oh, it's Marley.
That is correct. Jacob Marley was the tormented spirit who was forced to wander the earth forevermore as punishment for his greedy, selfish, and uncaring ways.
He is reincarnated as a dog with Owen Wilson and Jennifer Aniston.
You are on the board, though, with your first correct answer. Let's keep this going.
It's the only one that I actually knew. I didn't.
Number
all
8.
the rest was just guesses.
Who tried to steal Christmas from the Who's in Whoville?
The Grinch.
That would be correct. In How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
That's the softest softball.
I had to give him something. Question number 9. Why were candy canes first invented? For bored kids at church, to decorate the Christmas trees specifically, to hold stockings, or to stir coffee?
I bet it's like to stir coffee.
Chad, do you have a guess?
I was going to say, so teenage boys wouldn't masturbate. Wait, that's soccer. That's why they made soccer.
Basketball.
That is incorrect. It was not to stir coffee. It was for bored kids at church.
There you go.
The first candy cane was made in 1670 by German choir master to help children endure lengthy nativity services.
Oh my.
Which is true. It's sometimes good to have, a peppermint treat to get through some of those. So
here's some candy. Shut it so we can pay attention to Jesus.
All right. Last question, J.A. Where was Mommy kissing Santa Claus? Was it in the bedroom, on the rooftop, under the mistletoe, or on the stairs?
I'm going to say under the mistletoe.
That is correct. I saw Mommy kissing Santa Claus under the mistletoe last night.
Was that originally Jackson 5, or was there somebody before that?
Oh, no. I think that started in somewhere in the 1940s or 50s.
Yeah, 1952.
There you go.
By the British songwriter Tommy Connor.
Regardless, you got 3 out of 10 right. So unless Chad just dumps a bunch of coal in his stocking.
We'll see. No promises. My Pittsburgh Ease has come out today, and I don't know if that's good at trivia.
Question number 1. In what country are outdoor barbecues a traditional part of Christmas festivities? In Australia? China? Australia. You don't even hear the rest.
Nope. That's where Bluey lives. Australia.
It's also summer. Summer during Christmas.
Australia.
Of course it is.
Christmas comes
so
in the middle
easy.
of summer, where temperatures can.
These are layups.
100. What are you talking about? You got the Grinch, for God's sake.
True. Okay, that's his Grinch question.
All right. Question number 2, Chad. In the classic 1964 TV special Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, what does Hermie the elf want to be?
A dentist.
That is correct. Rudolph teams up with Hermie, the elf who wants to be a dentist. And together they attempt to save the island of misfit toys. Question number 3, Chad. What author wrote that it was always winter, but never Christmas? Salman Rushdie, Martin Amis, Charles Dickens, or C.S. Lewis?
I'm going to say C.S. Lewis.
That is correct. In the Chronicles of Narnia, Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, it talks about how the White Witch cast a spell making it always winter, but never Christmas. Question number 4. What is Frosty the Snowman's nose made of?
He's got 2 eyes, of coal, a corncob pipe, and, oh man, I want to say carrot, but hold on, a button nose.
That is correct. He has a corncob pipe and a button nose and 2 eyes made out of. You were right. Like, most people would have said carrot. That was the easy answer, but nope, it was definitely a button.
All right, hold on, wait. We have how many questions left?
6.
All right, my answers are C, B, A, B.
Some of these are multiple choice. Do you want to? Let's give all of our listeners one final question. You don't have to go through all 10. But there might be people playing at home, so let's give them one final question.
All right, go ahead. The answer is C.
Good King Wenceslas.
What? What's a what?
From the song. Good King Wenceslas was the Duke of what country? Moravia, Slovakia, Bohemia, or Poland?
C.
So Bohemia is your answer. That is correct. The legend of Good King Wenceslas is based on the life of the historical Saint Wenceslas, the Duke of Bohemia. His martyrdom and popularity soon gave rise to a reputation for heroic goodness that resulted in being elevated to sainthood, and then they made a pretty cool Christmas carol out of his name.
I didn't even know Bohemia
Good King
was a place.
Wenceslas looked out on the feast of Stephen when the snow lay round about, deep and crisp and even. Brightly shone the moon that night, though the frost was cruel, when a poor man came in sight, gathering winter fuel.
Don't you know Jingle Bells? Jingle Bells and things for pretty little girls.
So, officially, for the year of Chad, Chad is still the quiz master.
Now I want to know, is question 6 the answer B?
Good luck to all of you that paid attention to all of these awesome quiz questions. We're hoping that you will ask some of them to your family and friends here at the Christmas time season. In any case, we'll be right back with our present for all of you, which is our review of Wonder Woman Historia, The Amazons. Stay tuned.
Hi, it's Carlo Calantuan, last comic shop podcast listener and comic book tragic here in the Philippines. Mabuhay! When I'm in the US, I'm always on the lookout for a good deal on boards, bags, boxes, and all other manner of comic book related supplies. And that's why I love to go to bcwsupplies.com and use the promo code LCSPOD to get 10% off of all my orders. Not only do I get a discount on everything I buy at BCW, but I'm able to support the podcast when I use LCSPOD at checkout. So if you're in need of comic book supplies, head over to bcwsupplies.com and use the promo code LCSPOD. Oh, and guys, I'm still waiting for that Tressie review. Come on, when is it?
Do you like comic books? Do you like comic book movies and TV shows? How about movie and TV reviews? If I just described you, good news! You can get all of the movie and TV reviews you're looking for with a good dose of witty banter and fun thrown into the mix by checking out Paperweight Entertainment. Join Derek and Ian every Friday for TV reviews on the Paperweight Entertainment podcast, and join Ian and Colonel Bob every Wednesday for the Silver Screen Scoundrel movie reviews. Find out more information about both shows at paperweightentertainment.com.
All right, we're back with more of The Last Comic Shop, and it is now time for our Read Pile Review. Yes, the time of every single show where we don't give you a lump of coal, we give you a comic book review, because we're kind and generous, and we don't put on red suits with white trim to do so. We just put on our Last Comic Shop podcast t-shirts, which you can get over at www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com. Makes great Christmas gifts. Regardless, we're doing a book that made quite some noise a couple months ago because, again, James Gunn came out, said, oh, everybody should pick this up, and everybody did. It became a bestseller overnight, just like a Travis Kelce jersey. Again, that is the true test of whether you are a social influencer or not. Is if you say, hey, go pick up this book, and it becomes a Amazon bestseller.
It also helps that he's the guy making all the upcoming DC movies.
That is true.
And in charge of that. So
yeah, he was. Wasn't there some talk that this might be used as potentially the script or the idea for the next Wonder Woman movie?
Hence everyone rushing out to Amazon for their Amazonian Historia.
There you go. But who worked on this project, J.A.?
Okay, so this was a 3-issue DC Black Label, which was written by Kelly Sue DeConnick, and each issue had a different primary artist. Phil Jimenez on the first issue. That's the issue that actually won an Eisner, both for Phil Jimenez for pencil and ink, and also best single issue. The second issue was by Gene Ha. The third issue by Nicholas Scott. We had various colorists: Hi-Fi, Arif Prieto, Romulo Fajardo Jr., Wesley Wong, and Annette Kwok. Clayton Cowles provided the letters for the entire run. And then you had some collection cover artists. Phil Jimenez did the main cover that everyone sees, which is of Wonder Woman sort of turning her head in profile and
looking very regal.
Yeah, with the peacock drapery. I don't know what that's
sort of like peacock feather boa, and it looks like she's holding a lion's head though that's hard to see because it's cut off. Maybe it's an owl. I don't know. Something with plumage or fur.
No, but I fell in love with this book immediately just based on that cover. In any case, what's the old 10-cent synopsis there, old Chato?
Okay, so each of the books was an individualized story unto itself. They were spaced out, I want to say, about like 6 months apart whenever they came out, so they took their time with this one. But I'm normally not so great at these 10-cent synopsises, but this one tells me at the beginning of Book 3, in Book 1, 6 goddesses gave the Amazons our lives, our power, and our purpose. Hera abstained for reasons of her own. In Book 2, Artemis gave the Amazons our freedom, our sisters, and the burden that comes with truth. How then and why did the Amazons come to war with the gods? What brought them to Themyscira? Those are the subjects of Book 3 that I will summarize by saying there's big fights. Yeah. And the ladies kill a dude. And it's mean. They take apart Heracles, and that makes Zeus real mad. And then he's like, you did this, you killed my son. And then Hippolyta's like, which one? You got to be more specific. You killed a lot of them. And then Zeus is he doesn't respond well. And then in the end, a choice has to be made whether to save a particular Amazonian or to give up their freedom. And that sets the stage for the Amazons and Paradise Island as we've come to know it before they pick up Diana at the end, who, while Amazon born, does not have to suffer curse that keeps the other Amazons trapped on the island.
Ooh, that is true. It all kind of makes sense, honestly. If you're a longtime fan of Wonder Woman, I know that there have been a lot of retellings of the Wonder Woman origin story. But I can definitely say if you're a fan of Diana, this is about as origin-y as you can get because it deals with her birth.
You're just poking at J.A. Jay, tell them the truth. Tell our listeners the real truth.
Okay, I just want to say this has nothing to do with the actual story or the 3 issues. We'll get into that in a bit. Obviously, they have to sell this as a Wonder Woman book, even though she's, spoiler alert, in the first panel and the last panel as a baby. And that is it. There is no other Wonder Woman in the entire book. She's a baby. Maybe she turns into a dove for a while, and then she becomes a baby again. Thank you, Hera.
I do want to say, though, I thought, based on my limited understanding of DC continuity, and Chad can maybe say I'm wrong on this, but I thought Hippolyta was actually retconned as being the Golden Age Wonder Woman, right? Like, am I making that stuff up? But like Hippolyta, her mom was the original Wonder Woman that came in World War II and, fought. And then later on, because even though she's immortal, they couldn't make her too old. So they made Hippolyta be the original one. Am I making that all up, Chad?
You may be making that all up, but so is DC, as they're constantly reconfiguring their universe. So I actually think where it stands as of my last checkpoint, you were correct. So Hippolyta was the Golden Age Wonder Woman, and then basically passed the mantle down to Diana at some point
but
later
again,
on.
As this is DC Black Label, it is continuity adverse, or not adverse necessarily,
adjacent.
But adjacent. You don't have to follow continuity to get a Black Label. That's like Johnny Walker. But I think this has been pointed out on Twitter by various people, I'm sure, and also on YouTube. I think continuity is overrated.
Yes.
If it's a good story, it's a good story.
Right, absolutely.
Even if it doesn't have Wonder Woman in it, and it's sold as a Wonder Woman.
The reason I'm bringing that up, though, J.A., is because from my perspective, I do think this is a Wonder Woman story. Because honestly, you do get a Wonder Woman who's the main protagonist in all 3 issues. It just happens to be the Wonder Woman we know's mom. It's Hippolyta. Like, this is the story of Hippolyta. Yeah, there's like some stuff about like how the Amazons were created because basically all of the female goddesses of Olympus were kind of pissed off that, like, yeah, all the men just ran roughshod over them for millennia and whatever, and allowed all the men to do terrible things to the women. So they, hey, we're going to make the Amazons to stand up for the women and to get vengeance and, right the wrongs or whatever. And Hippolyta is this character who like starts off as kind of a slave girl, and you kind of see some of that treatment of women in the ancient times. With she's tasked with disposing of a female baby that was born, and when they wanted a son instead. And so like you kind of see like that whole patriarchal society or whatever, and how like she has to make this difficult choice, and it ends up haunting her. And then she just decides like, no more of this. Like I will, help my fellow women and all this other stuff. I mean, It's really a story of Hippolyta. So like you do get a Wonder Woman. It's just not the one we thought of, right? I mean,
right. It is interesting how, she's born a human but becomes an Amazon, and what that process entails. And
so my next question to you, J.A., is other than the fact that it kind of made you miff that there wasn't really, Wonder Woman, Magic Lasso, all that, invisible jet stuff, did you end up liking the book other than that?
I wanted to see the regal Wonder Woman that was sold to me on the cover. That being said, especially the first issue, I mean, was the reason why Phil Jimenez did not do issue 2 or 3 because he spent so much time on issue 1? There is through everything, his entire life as an artist into issue 1. It was overboard. So many double page spreads, so many beautiful ideas. I think very nice to see Kelly Sue DeConnick sort of take a step back and just let the art speak and breathe for itself. But it was overwhelming. The transition from him to Gene Han, the second issue, was, I thought, a little bit abrupt. I had gotten used to Phil Jimenez's sort of painterly style, and Gene is a little bit more standard comic, but he also had some really incredible background images where Demeter was going around the forest and was appearing in the trees as like, this is a branch and this is a branch, and they come together to make a face. So she's there but not there. I really like that. I like the story. I really wanted to see that regal, ancient Diana, and I didn't get it. It disappointed me.
Did it disappoint you, Chad?
Well, so I do want to start off by saying one of the things that I was very excited about is the fact that this, along with a lot of other Black Label books, they are sold in that slightly larger format. And when we decided this is the book we were going to read, I went looking and I was like, at my local comic shop, I could find issues 1 and 2, but not issue 3. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll shell out for the collected edition, which fortunately was still the same size. So you do get those enlarged pages. You get the premium version of comic books with these Black Label productions. And just from that standpoint, it's a very impressive package. And then when I started into this, oh my goodness, the first 5 or 10 pages of the Phil Jimenez art. Now keep in mind, I'm familiar with Phil Jimenez 25, 30 years now. Like, he was always the Diet Dr. Pepper to the George Perez's Dr. Pepper. It tastes just like the real thing. Where he was from that George Perez school of the hyper detailed. They put him on all the team books. He would show up on Titans from time to time. So I was familiar with Phil Jimenez, the comic artist. But this was so overwhelming. And he still has all the detail and more that he had back in the George Perez light days. Which I don't want that to be taken as an insult. George Perez is a master of the craft. And to be like George Perez is a compliment in the highest degree. But you just look at some of these images, and I'm looking at the double page spread of where they introduce the 6 main gods or goddesses at the beginning. And you could stare at these pages for hours. And just, there's so much color. There's so much detail, whether it's the stars and Aphrodite's hair, points, the spikes and Hecate, how things are coming out of Zeus's head and their faces everywhere. And there's so much detail in all of these pictures. And I'll be 1,000% honest. I made it about 10 pages in, and I'm like, Phil, I ain't got time for this shit. You hate to drag a guy for doing so well, but there was so much detail here that like I was just intimidated. It took me, a couple of days of letting this sit here before I was able to go back and be like, oh, I got to get this done before the show. And just basically force myself to power through. But like the stuff that he does, there are scenes where they're talking about the degradations that women have suffered. And so he puts them on clay pots. So if the premise of this book is this is the history of these, Amazonians, these ancient Greek gods and goddesses. So he sets it in the way that you would discover myths and the mythology of Greek gods and goddesses. You should see like the clay pots that he makes. There's got to be like 400 or 500 pots on this one double-page spread.
The page before where he's laying it out, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like 5, 6, 7. It's like 10 different crimes against women.
Right. And they're all that hieroglyphic style.
Yeah. But then you go to the next page, and it's this hall, and it's just pots everywhere, just sort of reinforcing the story of the Amazons was told by men. So this is a retelling of the Amazon story by the women. So it's very much in keeping with sort of what Kelly Sue DeConnick writes about. It's very much a feminist perspective on the Amazon myth.
That and the fact that it's also a lot of times history is written by the winners. Even at the end of this book, not to give too much away, but like the Amazons end up imprisoned on Themyscira. Everybody that reads DC knows that's where Wonder Woman came from, and they don't leave that island. They have to get there somehow. So like the story and kind of the tragic nature of eventually they have to get there, and why are they there and why they can't leave. It is heartbreaking. Now, I do want to jump in real quick and just simply say one of the most interesting things that I found about this book was how layered the mythology was. Like,
everything is layered in this book.
But to one point that I saw was like, if you read the after notes, you can see the original pitch that Kelly Sue DeConnick made for this Black Label series. And I believe that despite this being like 3, I think they're double-sized books, it was supposed to be like a 9 to 12 issue story.
And it honestly, still might be.
Well, what I'm saying is the thing that really struck me, and I had to take a step back from, was just how layered they made these tribes of Amazons. Like, each goddess made their own tribe of Amazons. And among those, they name 5 or 6 members by name with all different costumes and all different personalities. And you only get to meet like a handful as the story progresses, because really it's still Hippolyta's story. Like, she's really front and center, and everything kind of revolves around her. So these other Amazonian characters are just kind of in the background, being like kind of like the superheroes to her Jimmy Olsen or whatever. I don't know how else to explain
Jimmy Olsen.
What I'm trying to say was she's the audience in. You're supposed to feel through her. And so, like, you've got these other godly characters behind, but it was intimidating just how much world building was there, and we only got to see like a small sliver of it.
There's so much here, and one of the comments, and I can't remember if I saw this online or if it was in some of the back matter, but they talk about the Jimenez and the colors that the colorists are bringing to the table. Beautiful gold and these peacock colors interspersed throughout, but then inside those they're taking the digital effects and adding another layer of color inside. This, especially in the first chapter, you're dealing with the gods. It's supposed to be overwhelming. It's supposed to be incomprehensible to the minds of man. That's how big this is. And so, boy, was I happy when I got to book 2. And so,
I although it was overwhelming, I probably could have taken another issue by Phil Jimenez. I really could have. I hate to say it, but it became like, this is just another comic.
But that's the thing. Like, and don't get me wrong, like Gene Ha, an expert artist in his own right, takes the pedal off the gas, but the art is still beautiful. Gene Ha is also incorporating so many different layers and levels to his work. And like Jay brought up earlier, the faces, are hidden in the trees. You see the horse nibbling a berry off of Artemis's, headdress. Everything you would want in a mythological retelling is here. Did it sometimes because of all the Greek names and the Greek mythology to keep track of? I felt like it was a little bit academic in nature on top of all of the beauty. Absolutely. And like I said, as an experience, this book was overwhelming. This is not light Sunday fare. This is a full meal and then some you have to dig into. And then we get to the third issue, the Nicola Scott issue. And that one is also like, it's fine comic bookery. It's, all the characters are bright and vibrant. The battle scenes are brutal. When you get to those tough decisions, those are terrible. You see the cost of war. All the emotion is there. All the monsters, there's just,
Yeah, I think we could talk about this particular book for quite some time, but we have to get to our commercial break. And next, so we'll be right back with more of The Last Comic Shop with our rating of Wonder Woman, Historia, The Amazons, plus recommendations, maybe some possible Christmas gifts for those comic book fans in your life. Stay tuned.
Greetings from the depths.
No way I can keep that up, the whole commercial. Hey, Last Comic Shop fans. My name is Winston Gambro, and I make comic books. My latest comic is called Haunted House, A Love Story. It's a story of love, grief, and horror. A sentient house falls in love with its sole residents. However, this joy is short-lived when the house is forced into a forbidden love triangle and seeks vengeance. If you want a copy of the 6-issue miniseries, you can have your local comic shop order Haunted House, A Love Story from Blood Moon Comics. Also available at winstongambro.com. That's WINSTONGAMBRO. And I'll get you a copy. Thanks so much for listening. Back to the show.
All right, we're back with more of The Last Comic Shop, and it is now time for our ratings, where we're going to come down from Mount Olympus with our, girdles. I don't know. That was awesome. Like, that was one of my favorite scenes. Like, everybody loves Hercules because everybody knows the story about Hippolyta's girdle. But, like, he was like the jock, and how, like, Hercules gets it in the end. And, well, he gets it in the end in this book, too. I love how they counterpointed it with the ants, like, swarming the praying mantis.
Right.
Like, death by 1,000 cuts kind of thing.
One arrow is a prick, but 1,000 are a bloodletting.
Right. Very, very good stuff. So, in any case, J.A., what is our 1 out of 4 scale for this book?
Greek vases.
Ooh. It's an interesting sound effect, but we're going to start off with Chad because he gushed quite a lot, and I still think he's still got a little bit more on his mind. So how many Greek vases are you giving this, sir?
So at the end of the day, it was absolutely incredible. I even enjoyed the back matter, and I love where it starts off with a note from Kelly Sue DeConnick to her artists, and she talks about how the script that she's giving them is less of a set of blueprints as much as it is just a roadmap. She knows where they want to end up, how they get there. She's leaving up to the collaborative nature with her artists, which, as any creative person knows, that's the best way to get the best out of the folks you're working with. Lift all boats. The art in this book is simply spectacular, and they are doing next level things with this art, with the color palette. Everyone involved in this process deserves to be commended, and it's definitely worthy and one of the high notes of DC's Black Label line. One of the downsides to DC's Black Label in my mind was that it kind of replaced Vertigo, and Vertigo had its own certain mission, and there was a feel to Vertigo books, and it felt like the Black Label's like, yeah, what if we do that, but with Batman? Let's give people those adult-natured books, but with your big-name DC superheroes. So you get, instead of, a Sandman Black Label project, you get Batman, you get Superman, you get Wonder Woman. And in the guise of a Wonder Woman book, we get this. It was such an experience. It's the only way I can describe it. It wasn't always enjoyable because there was so much going on. But I keep going back to the replay value. I can see myself flipping through this just for the pictures and showing it off to friends. And I can see myself going back in another 4 months, 5 months and reading it again to see what else I take out of it. And so, yeah, it's a 4. It's a 4 vases and an extra little bottle of crazy glue in case you knock one over.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll go next, and I'm going to agree with that sentiment. I mean, it is a 4 vases with maybe 2 or 3 bottles of crazy glue because, again, the thing is, I have gone on record by saying that, like, at times I found it very difficult to wrap my head around Wonder Woman as a character, right? Like, she's gone through so many retellings of her origin. She's like this Greek god, but she dresses up in like star-spangled tights or whatever. She flies an invisible plane. She's got a kangaroo. At one point, she was a karate master. Like, all of this stuff was within that. And I get it that, like, Superman and Batman and a lot of the other DC characters have similar crazy stuff in their previous continuity, right? You could go back and you've got Zara-Nar with the Batman, and you've got, I don't know,
pick your zany Superman story.
Right. Long story short, I feel like Wonder Woman still had more of that. And maybe it's been a long time since they've started to really turn her around and actually really reinforce what Wonder Woman is and give her a backstory that really makes sense. I feel like this is probably one of the best. Now, going forward, if anybody's not read Wonder Woman, I'll say start with this, because this will give you all the backstory about what you need to know about Wonder Woman before Wonder Woman even shows up on the page. So I think it's extremely important for all new comic book readers. And the fact that, like, James Gunn is thinking about making this as the new origin story for Wonder Woman, I think that's a great idea. The fact that he went out there and tweeted about it so that everybody was picking it up, that's an awesome idea. I think that more people should do that. I don't know why, like, Chris Evans hasn't been like, hey, everybody should pick up Winter Soldier and, Omnibus so that it went up to the top of the charts. But good for James Gunn that he did it. And so, yeah, I think this is a beautiful book. It's wonderful to look at. It's in depth, like Chad says, with a lot of layers, so you can reread it a bunch of times. And it's now, for me, probably the definitive origin story of Wonder Woman. I think you should start here and then get whatever other Wonder Woman kangaroo book you want. J.A.
I guess it's really good that Wonder Woman comes from Greek mythology and not, like, from Queens, because I don't think you could do a DC Black Label book on Aunt May and Uncle Ben. Because
they tried that at Marvel one time. It was trouble. Literally.
I think the fact that you have these Greek myths to play with and to have the ability to take a principled stand on it and have a look at it through feminist eyes makes it interesting. The fact that there's no Wonder Woman in it makes it not really a Wonder Woman origin story. It's the origin of the Amazons. Okay, yeah, she shows up at the very last page. Thank you, Hera. The art is incredible. All 3 issues, they're different. The Phil Jimenez, I think, is the high watermark, and you can see why it won the Eisner for that. Kelly Sue DeConnick, I think, writes a really hard-hitting story, especially if you're reading it as a male like I am. There's some hard pages to get through. At other times, she's very good at pulling back and allowing the artist room to breathe and allowing the art to just speak for itself without dialogue. And I think that worked really well. But again, I was sold with that regal Wonder Woman cover and I didn't get her. So I can't give it 4. I can't give it 4 vases. One of the vases broke and I didn't have any super glue to glue it back together. So I've got to give it 3.75. There's a little bit of a cracked vase there that needs some super gluing. Maybe Wonder Woman can show up and glue it back together because she's not in this book at all. I'm being a little bit flippant. It's a wonderful story. I would recommend it to anyone. Obviously, you have to put Wonder Woman on the cover because that's what sells. You're not going to sell Historia, the Amazons with Hippolyta.
Can I ask a question? If Kelly Sue DeConnick's plan of this turning into a 9-volume,
oh yes, I'm all on board.
Pass.
Then it's lining up several things that I really love. One, then you got the beginning of a 3-part trilogy, not unlike Star Wars, though let's not talk about the third part. But also 3 runs of 3 issues each, 9 issues total. That, and because they're double sized and whatnot, then you're entering into omnibus level. So it's
look at you.
You know, me and my oversized collected volumes. I love that. So I really hope that she returns to the well. I think DC is obviously, this is a big moneymaker, so they're going to push her to return to the well. I hope she gets back on board with the same artistic trio that she had as well. But though, I don't know, do you just use them as cover artists and play out some other artists? We'll see. They each had a very distinct style, and they told the story slightly differently. I did like each issue always set up with the 6 goddesses, like on the second page. You got all 6 goddesses drawn by the 3 different artists. I thought that was a very nice way to sort of ground each book. We're going to start with, here are the 6 goddesses.
Right. It unifies and shows you the differences right away.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So you're saying if this is Act 1, you might go back and reconsider?
If this is Act 1, I'll have crazy glue then, so I can fix that broken vase.
I love it.
All right. Well, some things that are different yet grounded in one common theme are our recommendations. Yes, these are other comic books that you can pick up at your local comic book shop. In addition to Wonder Woman, Historia, the Amazons, which you can find in a variety of different formats, single issues, big collections, whatever you want to do. And again, these might be potential gifts for a comic book lover in your life. So we're going to go ahead and start off with Chad Smith. So Chad, what do you got for us this week?
There you go. Before I do that, I do want to take umbrage, sir, with something you said earlier, where you would give this to somebody starting out with Wonder Woman. Heck no. Do you give this to somebody that's just starting out with Wonder Woman? They would be so lost about what the heck is going on and have no wherewithal. This is just the first, or if this is all they get out of this.
No. It has nothing to do with Wonder Woman, so they can just enjoy it as they can sip their wine and eat their cheese. I disagree.
You will blind them. You can't start with this.
Umbrage, no. But I don't want to disagree with your recommendation, so what do you got for a recommendation?
You've got to build up to this stuff. And one way to build up to it, and this is something I may or may not have recommended in the past, but in the old personal life of the old Chadster here, you guys may or may not know that around the holidays last year, we had a pipe burst in my house, set everything into chaos, and I ended up living in a hotel for over 6 months. And one of the things that got packed away that I never got to open was a Christmas gift to myself. It's my recommendation for everybody today, and it still has the shrink wrap on it, so I think I'm going to give it to myself again this year. It's the Wonder Woman by Brian Azzarello and Cliff Chiang Omnibus, which collects Wonder Woman 0 to 35 and 23.2, and some story material from Secret Origins number 6. But as far as Wonder Woman runs go, this was from DC's New 52 initiative, and I have tried in the past to find Wonder Woman stories that I enjoy, and not many have stuck. I mean, we have covered Wonder Woman Dead Earth on this show from Daniel Warren Johnson, and I think that is masterful as well. But once I started reading the Brian Azzarello, Cliff Chiang New 52 series, I'm like, why do people hate the New 52? If this is the only thing we got from the New 52, I would say the New 52 was a worthwhile experiment. But you get a modern-day Wonder Woman, and it is a retelling of her origin. It's something that they wiped away, whatever they brought it back for Rebirth and all those other things. But all the different Amazons show up, and you get your run-ins with Zeus, you get your run-ins with Ares, you get your run-ins as Wonder Woman befriends, a plucky young lady, and they travel. There's so much here, so much fun to be had. And as far as cohesive and just well put together Wonder Woman stories. This was fantastic. And after I read the first trade, I immediately went to the second, to the third, and I kept going. And I remember my first read through was in the nascent days of DC's digital platform, and they skipped issues, and boy, did that make me mad. But eventually I got them all, and then I got this beautiful omnibus, and so that is what I'm recommending to you, so you can enjoy it if you haven't done so already. Cliff Chang, by the way, his art you may recognize from Paper Girls, and he's just one of those people that has that style that it just sings. It's one of those simple cartooning styles, but he does so well with action, and he does so well with faces, and it's just so good. If you can't find those trades on the cheap, then go for the omnibus. Get yourself something classy. It's one of the best things to come out of the New 52.
Yeah, and speaking of Cliff Chang, we're going to be recovering another one of his books later on this month during our DCember. We're going to be covering his Catwoman Lonely City to wrap up our third season here at the Last Comic Shop, so stay tuned for that. My recommendation this week is also kind of a fantasy-related story that also deals with kind of older myths and things along those lines. And it's one of those books that I've loved for many, many years. And over this past summer, I had an opportunity to sit down and interview the creator. That's right. I got to interview P. Craig Russell, who did a wonderful collection of books called The Fairy Tales of Oscar Wilde. And again, similar to Grimm's Fairy Tales, these kind of take fantasy characters, giants and fairies and star children and tell kind of interesting, morality lessons, so they're really good for children of all ages and done in this wonderful, wonderful style that if you've ever read anything that P. Craig Russell has done, you can know for a fact that he does high fantasy and dream-like wonderment very, very well. So I'm going to recommend Volume 1, which you can pick up at a lot of used bookstores. Like, go to a Half-Price Books. I'm sure that if you can find a copy of it. It contains 2 stories, the first one being The Selfish Giant, which is basically a story about a giant who has a beautiful garden, and the children like to play in the garden, and he doesn't like them messing around with his garden, so he builds a giant wall. And after he builds the giant wall, winter comes to his garden, and all of the plants are covered in snow, and it lasts for as long as it takes for one lone child to break through the wall and come and play and melt that giant's heart. And then finally spring comes to the garden again. It's a wonderful little tale. You can tell that to your kids at bedtime. The second story is called The Star Child, which deals with a magnificently beautiful child that was found in the wilderness. And because he's so fair-looking and so unique, he ends up being very cruel to his fellow man. And he ends up being cursed with his looks being taken away, and he has to learn humility and decency. Again, just wonderful fairy tale-esque stories that you can share with your family members. Done in a very wonderful style that won P. Craig Russell the Eisner. I think this actually was the first Eisner he ever won way back in the day. So Fairy Tales of Oscar Wilde, Volume 1. J.A.
Well, you're talking sort of fairy tales and mythology and that sort of stuff. One of the preeminent comic book and fantasy mythology writers that comes to mind is Neil Gaiman. So I'm going to recommend a Neil Gaiman book. One of his first turns for Marvel was Marvel 1602. Andy Kubert, the artist, basically putting Marvel characters in the Elizabethan age, where Stephen Strange is the court magician for Queen Elizabeth and trying to protect her from being assassinated by a mad tyrant despot named Doom. And you've got, there's a man who has been held in a tower because he is different. He's the Angel. And you've got Peter Parker shows up. Matt Murdock shows up, all running around the English countryside. And this woman coming back who ties it all together from Roanoke. And so it sets up for a very interesting story looking at the Elizabethan age, but sprinkled with well-known Marvel characters that are not quite themselves, obviously, because it's the 1600s, not the 20th century. If you like Neil Gaiman stories, if you like sort of that mix of mythology and superhero comics, I recommend it. I mean, it came out in 2012, I think, originally, but you can pick it up right now on Comixology. If you have a unlimited account, it's in their unlimited section, so you can read it at your discretion.
Very and didn't that Chad like start a whole like series, like a small series of like, you know, Spider-Man 1602, and like he got his own his own series and stuff like that for a while.
Yes, there were a series of spin-offs or a couple of different titles out of that one.
So if you start with the Marvel, like you've got a lot to read over maybe your Christmas break.
Yeah, a whole universe to discover.
And one other thing that you've got a lot of to enjoy over your Christmas break is episodes of The Last Comic Shop. We are getting close to the end of our third season. Over 150 episodes over at www.lastcomicshoppodcast.com, all evergreen, with a lot of the characters that we talked about on today's program, whether it's Wonder Woman Dead Earth. We mentioned that on today's show. Daniel Warren Johnson. Great book. Go back to our first season and listen to that story. If you like other books about mythology, go listen to Norse mythology, which again has Neil Gaiman ties, has P. Craig Russell ties. If you want, more Cliff Chang, Chad mentioned Paper Girls, another episode that we did here at the Last Comic Shop. All available, all evergreen. Rate, review, and subscribe, and to listen to as many as you want.
And if you need any more information, you always go back to our website. We've got links to all of our social media. Sometimes there's more, sometimes there's less. The whole social media, I think, in a year and a half is going to go away. It's dying. Taken over by Chad GPT. But what isn't dying is the need to buy merchandise. It's the Christmas season after all. So check out our shop. We've got t-shirts, tote bags, coffee mugs, and this week only, peacock feather boas.
Oh!
Queen in your life.
Oh, very nice. Plus, our Last Comic Shop holiday logo on t-shirts right now. If you want to get festive for the holiday season, make sure that you get yours with the Last Comic Shop dazzled in lights and Santa making his trip to gift us all with comics. Because it's the gift that keeps giving, right?
There you go. And if you want to get gifts to give that are comics, we encourage you guys and gals to head out to your local comic shops. There's that comic shop locator, www.comicshoplocator.com, where you can find things like Wonder Woman, Historia, The Amazons. Lots of titles on that one. Or Wonder Woman by Brian Azzarello and Cliff Chang, The Omnibus. Or The Fairy Tales of Oscar Wilde by P. Craig Russell, or Marvel 1602 by Neil Gaiman and Andy Kubert. All of that and more potentially waits at your local comic shop, which, like we said, the larger edition of Historia, those giant pages, all those colors, that's a wonderful gift idea, and you can get folks prepped and ready for those James Gunn movies down the road. So just make sure you're supporting those places, and that can help you share the love this holiday season with those you love.
Yeah, absolutely. Until next week, when we've got more DC comics for you as part of our DCember, trademarked. Well, I'm the host with the most, Andy Larson. I'm joined by Chad Smith and J.A. Scott, and we hope that you stay safe, stay festive, and remember that if you're on the fence on whether you like eggnog or not, don't worry. It just means that you're agnostic.
Eggnog stick.
Like a stick of eggnog.
Yeah.
Like frozen eggnog, you put it in the freezer. Ooh, eggnog popsicles. I think we're onto something here.
Clumpy.
The Last Comic Shop was a 2023 Black Angus production.